For the benefit of the team and his own reason, Jolut can let others try to play. Captaincy, Richie Bernard liked to say, is 90% luck and 10% skill, but don't try it without that 10%. Bernard illustrated as much in the 1958-59 Ashes, leading Australia to a 4-0 rout despite England fielding a side containing 6 all-time Ashes greats: Peter May, Colin Cowdrey, Tom Graveney, Ted Dexter, Fred Truman and Jim Laker, and a fading Frank Tyson too. Winning test matches or series isn't purely about playing strength. The 2005 Australians were arguably the stronger team and Shane Warne was comfortably the leading wicket-taker in the series, but Michael Vaughan's leadership helped fashion 2 nail-biting victories and England seized the urn. Jolut was lumbered with considerable problems before this Ashes series began. Unproven top-order batsmen, injured fast bowlers, no top-line spinner, an all-rounder who hadn't played for 5 months, and rain-ruined practice matches, never mind the restrictive issues of COVID. But the question is, could he have done more, as captain, to influence the course of matches, and ultimately, is he the right man to lead England going forward? There have been obvious mistakes in terms of selection and decision-making. The teams selected for Brisbane and Adelaide, the decision to bat first at the Gabba, are easier to criticize in hindsight, and also not entirely attributable to rout alone. But there have been other odd strategies, the blame for which could be placed at the captain's door. The true skill of a captain is in recognizing times and moments in games where momentum is in the balance and can be shifted one way or the other. Getting these choices right is one way of making the most of your players. His employment of Jack Leach and the field settings for him, for instance, have been perplexing. Selecting him for the Gabba was a mistake, and then bringing him on after only 24 overs of Australia's innings compounded that, especially with a left-hander, David Warner, at the crease, who was struggling against the seamers. Not only that, but he gave Leach, who hadn't bowled in a test since March, an over-attacking field. The left-arm spinners' 3 overs were pilloried for 31 and Australia were past 100 and a crawl had become a canter. Later, at another key point in the first test, when England claimed the second new ball, he gave it to Woakes, who had been the least effective of the seamers. He also opened up with Woakes the following morning with the second new ball only 4 overs old. Australia converted 320 for 7 to 425 all out, and any hope of England salvaging something was lost. In Melbourne, with Australia 123 for 4, still 60 behind England on their first innings, Root brought on Leach for a token over before lunch. It was innocuous, but at the beginning of the crucial afternoon session, he left him on, this time against 2 left-handers, Marcus Harris and Travis Head, and they extended their 5th-wicket stand to 171. England's possible advantage was lost. In the past 2 matches, we have seen Leach often operating with 5 men on the boundary to the exasperation of former England captain. It is impossible for a spinner to have any influence if there are gaping holes in the field through which test batsmen can acquire easy runs. In isolation, some of these decisions seem trivial, but collectively they suggest a lack of clarity in how to influence matches, and that has a bearing on the mentality and psychology of the team. Seeing these small opportunities slip away has a deflating effect on morale. Conversely, a captain who seems always one step ahead of the opposition is uplifting. Playing under Mike Brearley, as I did for 3 years, had an invigorating influence on players who believed he had everything planned out and you totally trusted his judgment. You could see the undermining effect he had on opposing batsmen, as if they suspected he knew something they didn't. One highly talented opponent, Derbyshire's Peter Kirsten, admitted that he sensed Brearley's presence at every turn during a hard-working 50, and he felt inhibited. Ricky Ponting blamed England's shorter-than-ideal bowling in Adelaide on Root's captaincy. He pointed out that the first time they bowled a fuller length was when he was off the field and Ben Stokes was in charge. But the bowlers should take the rap for that. A captain must be able to trust his seasoned performers to know where to aim.